What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home over at fakepigskin.com. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me, as always, is Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
What's going on, Kyle? I'm looking forward to this weekend's race as Talladega has traditionally been one of my favorite tracks to not only watch on TV, but to race in video games because there is no braking. So it's just pedal to the metal and guys going really fast.
Absolutely. I can't wait either. And no midweek race this week. So, we have a full week before the next race. We can revisit last week a little bit as we liked Austin Dillon, who cashed for us at a top 10. We mentioned Denny Hamlin on this show. He is your winner chicken dinner. Joey Logano, we'll get to him in a little bit, was the big letdown. There's gonna be weeks like that where we're gonna back somebody, and for one reason or another, things are not gonna go well. But I would say it's been a nice, decent little run of seemingly getting to where we need to be to find some value and pick some winners.
Yeah, I mean, as you dive deeper into some of the statistics and the histories of these races and these particular drivers, like you definitely start to see more trends, and it's pretty interesting when you look at the numbers that you start to notice who are the good value bets at particular tracks.
Sure. And this week is a little interesting. We are obviously going to be talking about the Geico 500. If you are new to the show, thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out. I noticed we've been getting a lot more viewers lately. We appreciate you coming. We appreciate you checking our show out. We got some new subscribers, so welcome. Thanks for watching and enjoying our content enough to hang around. And we're doing a little bit of a redesign. So you'll see on our YouTube page, on our Twitter at FPAOP, we're upgrading our graphics and kind of giving it a facelift. So let us know what you think down in the comment section. Hit us up on Twitter. We're really happy with kind of the direction it's going and how it looks. And we're hoping to stay here. We'll talk NASCAR, we'll talk fantasy, we'll talk sports betting, we'll talk as much anything we can. And Brian, the longer the quarantine's going on and other sports might not happen, we will get into esports, we will get into Counter-Strike. I don't know.
Whoa.
We're here to talk some NASCAR. We're here to talk some Geico 500. And Brian, I want to get your favorite option inside 10-1, because this week it's interesting. I feel like the last few weeks there's been some significant favorites. A lot of Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick at like 4.5 or 5-1. Obviously, Martin Truex won at 5.5-1. This week the board starts with Chase Elliott at the top at 8-1. We talk Keselowski and Joey Logano both at 9-1, and then Denny Hamlin rounds out your 10-1 or lower range. Is there a driver in that range that you like?
So I'm gonna go with Brad Keselowski, who, his history at this track over the last 10 races is really good. Except for 3 of the last 4, he hasn't finished very well. But in 2 of those races, he actually crashed out of the race, which caused him to finish where he did. He's a guy who's been running really well over the last 6-7 races in 2020. Dude has 6 of the last 10 races. He's finished in the top 10. He's got 4 top 5s. Where are we here? He's second to only my arch nemesis, Joey Logano, now in laps led at Talladega over the last 10 races. He's led double-digit laps in the last 4. He's got 7 straight top 10s in 2020. The guy is running really well. He has a really good history at this track, even with the 3 of the last 4 being crappy. I'm going to give him a pass on those with the crashes. So I'm looking at him with the 9-1 odds as being a good bet, when over the last couple of races, we were looking at the top 10 favorites being, 2-1, 2.5-1, 3-1, and you're getting a good number for a guy who's ran really well at the track.
Yeah, and you can get him you can get a top 5 finish on him at 200, basically 2-1 odds. You can get a top 3 at plus 275. I like that 5-1 at basically double whatever I invest. So I like that quite a bit. I am gonna go with your arch nemesis, Mr. Joey Logano.
Hopefully he does good.
And hopefully he gets a Denny Hamlin like experience, because basically 2 weeks ago Hamlin was terrible, crashed out, 3 laps down, didn't look good. Comes back the next week and wins, and it's really about comfort at a track, understanding how it works, and we've been talking about it with a lack of practice, with a lot of not qualifying races. Like these drivers, it's about comfort, it's about knowing the track, it's about doing well. And Logano has check all those boxes marked. You can look at his last 3 trips to the track. He has 2 top 5 finishes. If you look at his last 7 trips to the track, 2 wins, 5 top 5 finishes. Comfortable, does well, performs really well. A top 3 bet like with Keselowski, plus 275. Top 5 bet is 2-1. Like I could see myself being heavily invested in Joey Logano this week. A guy that I think is gonna, in prime position to win and bounce back in a big way. And I might end up with egg on my face backing him 2 weeks in a row, but maybe he'll be my arch nemesis come next week. But as of this week, as of right now, I love the track history. I love the performance, and I think he's ready to win a race.
Yeah, I think it says a lot too when you look at the odds that they've placed on this track, is that because this is a super speedway and it is less of a like technical driving course, it's more just who has the fastest car that day. I think that's why the odds are set the way that they are, because slight adjustments to the front left weight of the vehicle can give you to those corners a little bit quicker. And it is also nice when you look at Keselowski and Logano, they're both starting in the top 10 for the starting grid for the race. And if you could stay in the front of the pack at a race like this and get clean air the majority of the day, you have a really good chance of finishing where you're starting or moving up slightly and winning or finishing in the top 5.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. And something that, like, I mentioned, I'm top 3, top 5 outrights. I'm looking at both those guys for sure. But as you mentioned, this is more of a wide open track. This is a who has the best car kind of race. And for us, this is exciting because we actually get to dive a little deeper and find potential values and find guys that we want to target this week. So let's start with Mr. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a name that when I wrote my article earlier made the cut. And then when I asked Brian, who do you want to talk about tonight? It's a name that he mentioned as well. So we're both on board. Obviously, he's 20-1 to win the race. He is plus 125 for a top 10. He is plus 550 for a top 3, and over at top 5. Plus 375. So there's a lot of ways to go depending how risky you want to get. Obviously, that 20-1 price tag is really nice. But if you want a little less risk with still a solid payout, something like a top 3, top 5, top 10 might make a lot more sense.
Yeah, he was the first guy that jumped out to me when I was looking at. I kind of did this over the last 10 races, looking at current format of racing and all that. And he's one of only 5 guys to win in the last 10 races here at Talladega. He's top 10 finished in 6 of the last 10. He's got 4 top 5s. He's led a lap in 6 of the last 7 here. He's 9th in total laps led at the track. And he's been running a lot better over his last 3 races. He's finished 21st or better in 2020. And because I'm looking at this track as less of a driver's track and more of a speed track, I like Stenhouse, who's ran some pretty good speed laps over the last 3 or 4 races where he's been in the top 5 for fastest laps on those tracks. So Stenhouse for me is probably my favorite driver going into this weekend, like just looking at all the numbers and looking at his history. He's one of the lesser known guys that I really like.
For sure. I'm 100% on board. As you mentioned, like, has a ton of success, does really well, has wins, has top 5s. I guess if you were to bet Stenhouse this week, top 3, top 5, top 10, outright, like, where are you looking?
So I'm jumping the gun here, but my favorite bet is him top 10. Like, even though I like to go like better payouts for my wagers, but at plus money for him to finish top 10 in this race, which he's done consistently, I think that's like almost, let me bet the house here and all in on that bet.
That's where I'm at too. Like I'm looking at top 10 at plus 125. Like I know it's not as sexy as a 20-1 outright, but I feel like I could bet 3 or 4 or 5 times what I might bet on the outright. And have a really, really good chance at cashing and feel really good about that. So I like that call quite a bit. Much like Stenhouse, I'm going to go with another 20-1 long shot, and that's Aric Almirola. This is a guy that has had success at this track. In many of his recent races, it's been kind of a mixed bag. Obviously, had battery issues at Martinsville and some other DNFs, but has also performed decently well. He's coming into this track off a top 5, so that's good to see. He's kind of progressing in the right direction. Over his last 3 races, he has a win, a top 5, and a top 10. Great things to see at having the run of success at Talladega, getting better. If we go to the last 7 trips, he has a top 10 each time with 4 top 5 finishes. A guy that I love, like you mentioned with Stenhouse, like a top 10 at plus money. I don't see how that doesn't work out. Like obviously it's NASCAR. They could, have battery issues. They could, get in a wreck and like obviously, but if he finishes the race and drives up to his capability, it's going to be really hard for him to not be in that conversation. I do like targeting a top 5 on him at plus 375, and I may go that way as well, just because he's been so successful and he's finished 4 top 5s over the last 7 races. Like that's really good running. That's really good odds for a guy who's done it consistently. And obviously anything could happen and these guys could crash and whatever, but I'd feel more comfortable with Almirola with a little more risk. So a top 3, a top 5, I think I definitely like a lot more with him than I do with Stenhouse. But targeting both these guys for top 10, I think makes a ton of sense. If you're in DFS, I think these are 2 really good options to target as well for DraftKings, for FanDuel. I just think you're going to get a nice bang for your buck.
I think, and expanding on how we would bet these guys, I think both of these guys are prime candidates in driver bets. So like Stenhouse versus Kurt Busch, or Stenhouse versus even a Joey Logano, who's a co-favorite to win this race. Like you're going to get some good values on those for 4 guys that do really well here.
Yeah, no, and I like that even better because sometimes you can target a Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, a Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, and then not only like are you going to get really good odds, but if the other driver has a bad day, all of a sudden, even if they finish 20th, if Joey, I took Martin Truex, who actually at Martinsville who ended up winning the race, but I took him versus Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch ended up 2 or 3 laps down, and I didn't have to sweat bet the whole race. It was beautiful. So that is a great way to look, especially when you like some of these longer shot guys. And a lot of times they'll target they'll give you decent drivers to target them against. So you might get a William Byron, you might get Kurt Busch, like you mentioned, I think is a good one. You'll get kind of guys in that mid pack, or like a Jimmy Johnson. Like Jimmy Johnson's still got a lot of name cachet and a lot of name recognition. Obviously, a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, but isn't the same guy he has been.
I think he's the Aaron Rodgers of NASCAR world right now.
Yeah. Oh, we might have to revisit that.
He's potentially the most accomplished driver.
Yeah, he's
currently racing and over the last 2 decades.
He's like the Dallas Cowboys, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like
always,
their odds are just generally boosted because of name recognition and the fan base behind them.
Yep.
Let's dive deeper because there is a name that you like.
Yes, sir.
And a price tag that I like. So sell me on Mr. Ryan Newman.
I mean, I'm going to go with an oldie but a goodie here. And Ryan Newman, he's a guy who's pretty well known. He's been around the block. He's raced at this track plenty of times to have good familiarity here. He finished top 10 in both races last year under his new team owner and Jack Rouse driving. He finished second in his last race here when he started the race in the same row he's starting in this time. He's starting in the 7th row. He's got 4 top 10 finishes in the last 5 races here. He's been driving okay in 2020, but he's not been spectacular, but he's doing pretty well. He's finishing in, the early teens, mid-teens of races, and going into a race that is more so about just going, and a guy who has really good success here. Newman at 40-1 to win the race. And then when you go even deeper and you start to look at him as like a top 5 finish, I mean, you're getting
7-1 odds on a top 5.
7-1 for a top 5, or you go even top 10 on him and you're getting 2-1. Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic value.
Yeah, no, I like that call quite a bit. Obviously, Newman, older guy, but he's had success. He's been running really well since NASCAR restarted, and when you're getting that kind of price tag on a guy that I think absolutely can be in the conversation, I've been doing a lot of golf lately, and Matt Kuchar is one of those guys that I'm never gonna pick him to win a tournament, but he's a guy that's always going to be in that top 5, top 10 conversation. I think Newman's very much in the same boat where he'll be a guy that will be in contention, will be kind of, when you look at kind of the end of the race, he's right there. I don't know that I love him to win, but a top 5, a top 10, I think makes a ton of sense. And a few shekels on a 40-1 if he hits. You're gonna be loving life.
That's what I was gonna say. A small wager on a value like that, and you're rolling in the dough. And he's very similar to Austin Dillon last week, where the odds were astronomical, but just the history and the numbers were telling you that this was like easy money, or it's just such a great value that how could you pass this up?
Yeah. And when you see odds like that at a track where somebody's had success, the beautiful part about betting NASCAR is you don't have to bet them to win. You could bet top 5s, top 10s, cash winning tickets, and build your bankroll, and that's what you want. And obviously, a 20-1 or 10-1 even with an outright is great, but 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. I will take that. We bet Martin Truex at 5.5. We can get Ryan Newman at 5 for a top 5 finish, or 7 for a top 5 finish. So I'm all about that. I'm happy to scoop up that value and take that all day. So
I mean that is if you didn't empty the bank account on Joey Logano when he crashes in pit road, not even during the race.
Well, that's what you get for unloading your bank account on your arch nemesis. Brian, I hope you have much more success this week. I hope the success is on both of our ends. Obviously, there is some crossover in terms of Almirola, in terms of Stenhouse. But if you're placing one bet this week, what is your best bet?
It's got to be Stenhouse top 10 plus 125.
Yep. No, I think I can guarantee you that will be on my card this week. Almirola top 10 is one I love. I'm going to go with top 5 though. I think he is due, and I want a little bit better of a payout. So I am taking Aric Almirola for a top 5 finish. Like Brian said, if you are in a book where you can parlay a couple of these, maybe Almirola's Stenhouse both get top 10s. Look at that. That's an interesting way to look as well. But for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Peace.